The BizNews Power Hour.
Well, welcome to the BizNews Power Hour this Thursday. I'm Alec Hogg, and with me in studio here in Johannesburg, as per always, Stuart Lohman, our general manager, stroke managing editor. What's your total title now?
I think we do it all, aren't we, Alec?
Do it all. Indeed we are. And it's lovely to have Nadia up here from the Cape. Nadia, you're going to be bringing us the headlines from the Joburg studio for a change.
Yes, indeed. It's nice to be here.
And in our virtual studio, all on his own, is Justin Rowe Roberts, who's been following all the markets and doing interviews today. Jan Potgieter from Italtal. Those numbers, Justin, were splendid.
Unbelievable. The best on record for Italtal. And I haven't just been doing that, Alec. I got my first jab today as well today. So Bill Gates is tracking my every move.
As he should. But no, congratulations on that, Justin, and also on the interview. I think that we're going to find that many people will enjoy it, especially the Telltale shareholders. But before we go into that, we've got quite a show coming up today. Piet Viljoen is our guest co-host. He's got a lot to talk about, the major issues of the day. As mentioned, Jan Potgieter, who's the CEO of Italtal. Justin spoke to him earlier. Stuart, we've then got Paul Whitburn, and that's an interview that was done by our colleague Charles Buerter.
Yes, it was, Alec. Obviously, Charles asset management, that type of mind, so he likes to pick up on these themes, and Paul's from Rosendahl Partners. And they talk about China, which is obviously very topical in the commodity cycle, etc. So a very interesting interview.
So, Justin, he's one step ahead of you, is he, on the CFA? Charles actually got his CFA, and you're on your way to it.
Yes, he's a charter holder. So you got to have the requisite 4 years experience plus pass all 3 exams. I've got 1 more exam to go. 2 more years of experience granted. I do pass my 3rd exam.
I can't believe how incredibly well qualified these colleagues of ours are, including our lawyer who spoke to another lawyer today, Nadia.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was like a little bit of my old life.
And what exactly did you talk to Paul Hoffman about?
About the JSC finding the gross misconduct, upholding it against Hlophe. So very interesting.
All right. So the Western Cape judge president, who is presumably going to be impeached or not. Anyway, we'll see. Have it a bit later. And all of that coming up in the show tonight. Before we get there, though, what's going on at biznews.com? What are people reading, Stuart?
Alec, with Justin going for his COVID vaccine, it seems to be the theme that's of the day on the site. The most popular is Chris Bateman's interview with Kamantri Mudley, the professor of medicine from the University of Stellenbosch, and how she was talking about how it's in the public's interest for everyone to get the vaccine. And just behind that, we've got a former colleague from Media Connect, Greg Stewart, who wrote a mailbox, which is something we also encourage at BizNews, is to have sort of contributions from the community members. And he talks about how it's a move towards fascism. So it's like this a good balance of views there.
So you got the prof saying we should have mandatory vaccines, and then the former publisher of The Citizen, Greg Stewart, saying that's fascism. Wow. And number 3?
Number 3 is your interview with Magnus yesterday on the investment world, which is very interesting. Yeah.
Nadia, on the YouTube videos?
So the best video over the last 24 hours was also the live stream of your interview with Magnus, regular co-host on Wednesdays, always has great insights. And then the live stream of your interview with Gigi Alcock was great because it was upon us finding out those new unemployment rates, and he just filled us in on the informal sector and how that's not taken into account. And then the third video is the summary of your interview last week with Gerard Papenfuss of NIASA.
Yeah, that was I'm surprised actually that the Gerard Papenfuss interview didn't get cracking a little earlier, but it's interesting to see now that it's coming together, because he had some pretty important stuff to say about ArcelorMittal South Africa, not least that they've got import duty protection after Lakshmi Mittal, who owns the company, flew into South Africa for a day with Jacob Zuma back in 2016. Oof, what a story.
BrightRock believes that with every change in life comes opportunity, and the markets aren't any different. The daily movement in the markets mean change for us all, sometimes small, sometimes big. This daily market report is made just for you by BrightRock, the first ever needs-meshed life insurance that changes as your life changes.
Okay, Nadia, the news headlines for today, please.
A substantial majority of the Judicial Service Commission voted to uphold a gross misconduct finding against Western Cape Judge President John Hlophe, paving the way for an impeachment process by Parliament. This will be the first time in SA's post-1994 history the JSC has referred a judge to Parliament for possible impeachment. The finding of gross misconduct earlier in 2021 by a Judicial Conduct Tribunal related to a 2008 complaint by all the then justices of the Constitutional Court. The justices complained that the Western Cape Judge President had sought to influence the outcome of a pending judgment relating to corruption charges against former President Jacob Zuma. State-owned airline company South African Airways has announced it will resume flights on the 23rd of September 2021. The wait is finally over. In just under a month, the striking and familiar livery of SAA will once again be visible in the skies as the airline resumes operations, the company said in a statement on Twitter. SAA will operate flights from Johannesburg to Cape Town, Accra, Kinshasa, Harare, Lusaka, and Maputo in the initial phase of its relaunch. SA's greenhouse gas emissions increased 10% in the 17 years since 2000, according to the latest greenhouse gas inventory report, which was published by the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries this week. The report is part of SA's obligations under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and has been compiled on a regular basis since 2000. The latest report provides data for 2017, and experts say that the lag in the data is not unusual as it is a lengthy and difficult process to compile. However, under the Paris Agreement, SA must reduce the lag to 3 years by 2024.
Thanks, Nadia. Okay, Justin, what's going on in the markets?
The JSE All Share Index is lower at 67,200. Markets, the rand was slightly stronger against all the major currencies to 14 rand 96 cents to the dollar, 20 rand and 51 cents to the pound, and 17 rand 56 cents to the euro. Gold is down at $1,785 an ounce. A Kruger rand will put you back around 27,500 rand. Brent crude is flat at $71.40, and Bitcoin is down at 710,000 rand per coin. Late on Wednesday, a dispute between Nigerian tax authorities and MultiChoice, Africa's biggest paid TV provider, intensified, showcasing the risk international firms face as the continent's largest economy tries to bolster revenue collections. MultiChoice was ordered by a Nigerian tribunal to pay 50% of a $4.4 billion tax bill. On Thursday, MultiChoice announced to shareholders that the fine was over-exaggerated and played down the allegations. The shares are up more than 7% on the JSE today. Sibanye-Stillwater released its interim results, with the diversified miner announcing a 4.8 billion rand dividend. One of the talking points in the commentary was its plan to convert its aging Beatrix West gold operations in South Africa's Free State province into a uranium mine as part of a strategy to build a meaningful production of the fuel. Sibanye-Stillwater CEO Neil Froneman said unlocking latent value by building would complement the firm's green metal strategy. The shares are slightly in the green on the JSE today.
So interesting, that story, because I remember spending time with Neil Froneman at a uranium mine, Africana Leases, which was an old gold mine that Neil became the owner, well, he became the CEO of Africana Leases, and that was turned into a uranium mine called Uranium One, which he then listed on international markets. And eventually it was sold to the Guptas, would you believe it? And they called it Shiva, but it's there in Clarksville. So quite a long story that now you're finding the old Beatrix gold mine that Neil, who would know it very well from his days at Gencor, which was part of their stable, that he's now seeing the uranium potential in it. And I guess with the move to green energy, it makes a lot of sense, Justin.
Exactly, Alec. I mean, we've seen it with Anglo Gold, we've seen it with Anglo Platinum. Green shareholders are calling for it, and that's what Mr. Froneman's giving to them. And besides from the move to uranium, he's giving back a lot to shareholders. We've seen big buybacks and big dividends from these results today.
Are you talking to him later this evening?
Talking to him later this evening should be a very interesting due diligence with the uranium part, which I don't know too much about, but
Indeed, you are. Well, that will be a good one. Stuart, you thought I forgot about the podcasting. What are the BizNews community listening to? That was the third leg of our chain that we talk about every day.
Very similar theme to the BizNews TV on YouTube, Alec. The top listened to podcast is Magnus Haystack's interview yesterday, Gigi Alcock's interview on the informal sector, and then the mandatory vaccine interview with Prof. Mantri Mudley.
So it's interesting. It goes across all of the areas. So you read about it on .com, you listen to it on the podcast or on BizNews Radio, on Spotify, etc., and then you watch it on YouTube on BizNews TV.
I think we've got the perfect integrated newsroom in this business, because you do an interview on video, for instance, gets put onto YouTube, we pull the audio, put it onto a podcast, team picks up the podcast, puts it onto .com, and you cater for all users' methods of consumption. And I think it's fantastic.
Nadia, just before we go, that story about South African Airways is interesting. So they're going to start flying again
23rd of September.
23rd of September, but just it seems to destinations
just
outside of South
local
Africa.
destinations, and then they're going to sort of reassess shortly thereafter. But this is just their relaunching phase, which is huge. They've been grounded since the 27th of March last year.
But they haven't confirmed it yet. The deal hasn't gone through. So, and the other thing that was strange to me was, why announce it on Twitter?
Yeah, that is odd.
It's
But
like
that's apparently the new way.
Getting like Donald Trump, you know, got something important to say, talk to your millions of followers on Twitter. Isn't it strange?
It is strange. I find it strange, but I
suppose the company feels that they can't have their information distorted in any way if they send it on Twitter.
I think Kalula came out with their 30% off from 1 September. So I think the battleground is about to heat up, Alex. So they might have had to put something out just to sort of be part of that fight.
Yeah, what an interesting story. Anyway, the airwaves are going to be changed indefinitely. The thing that still not bothers me, but surprises me is the deal's not done.
Yeah.
It hasn't been confirmed. The due diligence is still being continued. And now you get an announcement on Twitter where you can hardly go back and say, sorry, we don't want to do the deal anymore, when you've already announced that you're going to be doing it.
Wonder who's making the decisions.
This market report was made just for you by BrightRock, the first ever needs-matched life insurance that changes as your life changes.